My mother always treated me like a failure, but I never expected her to go this far. She cut me off completely and told me to never come back. As she slammed the door, I thought my heart would shatter. But as I stood on the porch, I swore that she would be the one to regret this. What she didn't realize was that I had been collecting the evidence to ruin her life. I was never the kid my mother wanted. That much became clear early on. We lived on the south side of Springfield, Missouri. Small house, decent neighborhood, but my mother always acted like she deserved more. She was the type of woman who wanted everyone to think we were better off than we were. She made us dress up for church, kept a spotless living room for show, and smiled through her teeth in public. But behind closed doors, she was cold and cruel. My brother Paul was her pride. Athletic, outgoing, good at charming adults. Megan, my sister, followed the same path. Straight hair, soft voice, knew how to say the right things. And then there was me. I liked to stay in my room. I read books. I spent hours on an old desktop computer learning how to build websites when I was 12. I didn't go to prom. I didn't play sports. That was enough for her to write me off as a failure. She called me a quiet disappointment. Said it like a joke, but not really. Every time I came home from school, I felt it. That sigh when she saw me. The way she never asked how I was doing. She used to tell relatives I was probably going to end up working at a gas station. I didn't scream. I didn't fight back. I just got through high school and left. At 18, I moved out and took a help desk job downtown. I lived small. One-bedroom apartment, second-hand furniture, microwave dinners. But it was mine. I paid my bills, I saved what I could, and I kept my head down. I thought maybe if I stayed the course, built my own life, things would eventually change between us. That maybe she'd see I wasn't a failure. I still called her. Still came back for birthdays and holidays. But she never changed. She'd make comments about my weight. Ask if I was still into those video games even though I worked in cybersecurity. She'd roll her eyes if I mentioned a promotion. I tried to laugh it off, but it wore me down. Then my dad got sick. It started slow. He'd forget appointments, repeat himself. Eventually, he was diagnosed with congestive heart failure. I stepped up. I started calling more. I offered to set up his online banking so he wouldn't miss payments. I ordered his medication refills. I even flew back to help get him into a better care plan when Medicare got messy. But my mother, she used it. She started taking his checks. Told people he wanted her to handle the money, but I saw the dates and withdrawals. I saw the transfers to her personal account. I offered to help. She snapped at me. You wouldn't understand. You've never handled real responsibility. That's what she said after I offered to handle the bills while she was at work. I was 29, working full-time. She still saw me as a child. When Dad passed, I thought maybe, just maybe, we'd grieve together. But at the funeral, she cornered me near the back of the church and whispered, "Don't pretend you were close to him. You barely showed up." Loud enough for others to hear. I didn't cry at the service, but those words nearly broke me. I stayed through the burial out of respect for him. But after we got back to the house, I couldn't hold it in. I followed her into the kitchen while she poured herself wine and asked her point blank, "Why do you hate me so much?" She didn't even pause. "Because you've never been enough. You always came up short. You've never made me proud." It was like being gutted. I think part of me still believed I could earn her love. I stood there, stunned. That's when she said it. "You're not welcome here anymore. Don't come back." She turned and walked off. A few seconds later, I heard the front door slam shut. I stood on that porch for a long time. It was late, probably after midnight. I felt humiliated, abandoned. But more than anything, I felt a shift. Something inside me broke, and something else took its place. Because I hadn't just been helping with Dad's care. I'd been collecting. See, in 2019, I noticed odd charges coming from his account, subscriptions he didn't use, cash withdrawals at odd hours. So I started downloading the statements. I backed up his emails. I saved copies of his insurance claims. I even recorded a few conversations, including one where my mother said, "If he's too far gone to know what's happening, what's the harm in using a little for myself?" She thought I was clueless, that I was just the quiet one. But I had years of records. She had committed benefit fraud. She had misused his social security checks. She'd lied on multiple documents. And I had it all. That night, driving back to my apartment, I wasn't sad anymore. I wasn't even angry. I was clear. She wanted to erase me? Fine. But I was going to make sure the rest of the world saw exactly who she really was. For weeks after she kicked me out, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Every day I'd sit down after work, open my laptop, and go through the folders I'd labeled Jeanette Evidence. It started as a way to protect Dad, but now it had a new purpose. At first, I hesitated. She was still my mother. There's a part of you that doesn't want to destroy family, no matter how much they hurt you. But then I found a voicemail from my dad. One I'd saved by accident. He sounded tired. Confused. "Hey kid, your mom said you were too busy to help with the bills. I guess that's okay. Just take care of yourself." That was a lie. I'd offered to take over. I'd begged her to let me help. And she told him I said no. I wasn't going to let that be the last thing he believed. I started with a timeline, pulled bank statements from his final 2 years, matched them with dates on Medicaid and Social Security filings. I even found out she'd forged his signature on a document authorizing her to handle his finances. But the real kicker was the house. Turns out, my dad had refinanced the home in 2017, his name only. But in 2020, a quitclaim deed had been filed giving her full ownership. The signature? I knew my dad's handwriting. That wasn't his. She'd faked it. That was when I contacted a lawyer. Not to sue yet, but to ask what I could do. I told him everything. Showed him what I had. He told me, quietly, "You're sitting on evidence of elder abuse and financial fraud. If you want to go down this road, there's no turning back." I said, "She already turned her back on me." We filed a report with the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services. They launched an investigation. Quietly. I knew she'd find out eventually, but I wanted it to be too late by the time she did. Then something strange happened. Megan called. I hadn't heard from her since the funeral. She said, "Hey, Mom mentioned you've been snooping around. Said you're trying to stir up drama." I almost hung up. But then she said something that stopped me cold. "She's selling the house." What? She said it's time to move on. Said she found a buyer. I felt my stomach drop. That house was bought with Dad's money. If she sold it before the state got involved, she could hide the profits, disappear, maybe even move across state lines. I had to act. I gave my lawyer everything. I pushed for them to freeze the sale. Within a week, the state issued a temporary hold on the deed due to the ongoing investigation. That's when she called me. First time in months. Her voice was ice. "You think you're smart? You think you're going to take me down?" I said nothing. "You don't know what you're doing. You're going to ruin this family." I finally spoke. "You already did that." She hung up. But it wasn't over. She started retaliating. First, I got a letter from a lawyer. She was accusing me of harassment. Said I was stealing documents, hacking her accounts. She filed a police report. I was actually questioned at my apartment. Thankfully, I had receipts. Literal ones. I showed the officers emails from my dad giving me access. I had voice memos. I had my name on utility bills. They dropped it. But it didn't stop her. She started calling my job, trying to get me fired. Said I was unstable. Said I'd stolen from my parents. Luckily, my boss knew me well enough to ignore it. But HR still had to document everything. That was when I knew she wasn't going to go down quietly. And neither was I. Just when I thought I had everything under control, something happened that knocked the wind out of me. Megan called again. This time, she sounded shaken. Not angry, scared. She told me you forged the documents, she said. That you're trying to steal the house because Dad cut you out of the will. What will? I asked. There was a long pause. She said Dad changed it before he died. That everything goes to her. That didn't make sense. My father never said anything about changing the will. I had copies of the original, dated 2016. In it, everything was split between the three of us equally. But if she was right and there was a newer one, something was seriously wrong. I started digging. I contacted the lawyer who drafted the original will. He told me, "I haven't spoken to your father since we filed that one. No updated documents on file." That meant if there was a new will, someone else drafted it. And it wasn't through official channels. I put in a records request with the county. And 2 days later, I got a scanned copy of a revised will filed just 3 months before Dad died. It left everything to Jeanette. Not a cent for me or Megan. Not even a note. And the signature? It wasn't his. This was bad. If that will held up in court, she'd get everything. But if it was proven fake, it wouldn't just invalidate the will, it would open the door to felony charges. I called Megan again. This time I didn't hold back. "I have the will. It's fake." I didn't know, she said. "Then help me. She's not just screwing me over. She's screwing you too." That's when she told me something I didn't expect. She offered me money. What? She told me if I backed her up, if I didn't ask questions, she'd give me 20 grand from the sale. I went silent. Megan started crying. I thought maybe she was telling the truth. I didn't want to believe she'd lie about Dad. But she had. And it wasn't just about me anymore. Turns out, Mom had taken out a second mortgage on the house using a forged power of attorney form signed on behalf of my dad. That alone was fraud. Add in the false will, the benefits misuse, and the fake deed transfer, and she was sitting on a pile of felonies. I brought it all to the investigator. Megan gave a statement too. But here's where it twisted again. 2 weeks later, I got a knock on my door. It was my brother, Paul. I hadn't seen him since Dad's funeral. "Can we talk?" he asked. We went to a diner down the street. He didn't order anything. "She told me you were trying to destroy the family," he said. "But I don't believe her anymore." He slid a folder across the table. Inside were copies of text messages between him and Mom. Some dated back 3 years. In one, she said, "If anything happens to your dad, the house is mine. Don't let the loser get any ideas." The loser?
Me.
Paul said. I didn't want to get involved. But now that she's throwing you to the wolves, I can't keep quiet. He gave me everything. The tide was turning. But so was she. That same week, I got served. She was suing me for defamation. She'd lawyered up with some sleazy family attorney and filed a civil suit claiming I'd ruined her personal reputation and financial stability. She demanded $100,000 in damages. I stared at the papers in disbelief. She was the one who lied, stole, and forged documents. And now she wanted money from me? That was the moment I stopped being afraid. I was going to bury her. The lawsuit was the last straw. She thought she could keep me scared. Thought if she dragged me through court, I'd fold. But I'd spent a year gathering everything. Every forgery. Every transfer. Every voice recording. I wasn't backing down. My lawyer filed a countersuit. Elder abuse, financial fraud, forgery, and emotional damages. We submitted the quitclaim deed with a fake signature. We submitted the fake will. We gave investigators the power of attorney form with handwriting analysis. They all pointed in one direction. Jeanette had faked them. The court ordered a forensic audit of her financial records. And that's when it all fell apart. Turns out she'd been doing this longer than anyone realized. She'd been siphoning money from my dad's pension for over a year before he died. She claimed he agreed to it, but there were no documents, just her word. And that word meant nothing now. Then came the Medicaid fraud. She'd lied about income to get benefits. Claimed she was the sole caregiver, when in reality she used the money to pay for salon visits and private gym memberships. They found nearly $30,000 in improper disbursements. And the forged will? It was tossed out fast. The handwriting expert confirmed it was not my father's signature. That meant the original will from 2016 stood split 3 ways. The house. The accounts. The remaining pension. She was furious. She stormed out of the hearing screaming that we were traitors, that we had plotted against her. Megan was crying. Paul didn't say a word. But I just sat there, staring straight ahead. Because it wasn't over yet. Once the criminal investigation wrapped, the Department of Justice filed charges.
Fraud. Forgery.
Financial exploitation of an elderly person. Jeanette, my mother, was arrested. She ended up taking a plea deal, 3 years probation, $60,000 restitution, and mandatory counseling. She avoided prison, but she lost everything. The house was sold to cover debts. Her accounts were frozen. Her name? Publicly attached to a felony record. No more church lady reputation. No more neighborhood pride. She lives in a studio apartment now. Doesn't have a car. Word is, she walks to the grocery store alone and keeps her head down. She sent me one letter. Handwritten. No apology. Just blame. I never wrote back. I didn't do all this to hurt her. I did it because I needed to prove, if only to myself, that I wasn't what she said I was. That I wasn't the failure. The invisible child. The loser. She tried to erase me. Instead, I erased the lie she built around herself. And in doing that, I finally walked away free.